Tyla Rodrigues released the singles All She Is and Missed Calls last year. And since then, she's been busy appearing at festivals and touring Queensland. And every time I check her social media, there's something else going on. But she has had time to record a brand new and rather haunting, beautiful single called Way Out West. So I'd like to ask her about that. Hi, Tyla.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. But as I said, you're haunted by this single. It's just from the very first time I heard it, I was like, oh, it's one of those things that really gets a grip on you. And so like right from the first verse, from the first listen, I'm wondering what the story is behind it.
So this song I actually wrote. It's a bit of a weird one for me, like thinking about the writing process, because it was a whole range of sort of emotions. I feel like in all the other songs that I've written in the past and songs that I'm still writing today, it's kind of one thought and one feeling that you carry on throughout the entire song. But I started writing this song with the idea of how would I feel if I were to lose somebody super important to me, and like what would that kind of, I guess, put me through emotionally and mentally and things like that. And I guess I started with the chorus with that in mind. And then I sort of went through some things, lost some people in my life, like whether it's a friendship or a relationship or things like that. And then it was kind of after that, a bit of, the whole grieving process. Because when you, I guess, end a relationship of any kind, romantic, friendship, anything in life, you're grieving the loss of that person, but then I guess what you're left with is sort of the memory of them as well. So it was kind of all of that bundled up into one big idea. And I think, the verses came after that, and I think you can really hear that grieving process throughout the entirety of the song, which I really like. And when I started sort of shipping it off to people or sending little videos and going, what do you sort of think, I kind of got the same response from a lot of people as well. They're like, this is gut wrenching because it's really real. And I was like, yeah, like that's what I wanted it to be. It was a song that started vulnerable, so it was only right to sort of end it that way. And so I'm really proud of how it came out, and I hope that people kind of feel that story as well and can relate to it in some way.
Absolutely. It's there in the way you sing it as well, because your voice sounded really delicate while also sounding strong. So I'm wondering if when you went to record it, did it take a while to connect with how you wanted to sing it, or do you think just through the writing process you had that already in mind when you went to record?
Yeah, well, I guess because all the emotions behind it were really real for me, it was pretty easy. I recorded with Rusty Crook. He was also the producer for this song, and him and I work really well together. This was the first time I'm working with him, and I absolutely loved it because from the very beginning, I think he really got my vision and got exactly what the song was about. I sent him some reference tracks and, sent him kind of basically the story behind it. And he was like, yeah, okay, that's deep. And I was like, yeah. But, we went into the studio, and I think it is a roller coaster. Like you said, in the beginning, it's quite, I guess, a delicate sort of, that's the feeling of like, how I'd feel if this person was to walk away. And then I guess verse 2 sort of like, if you've lost that person or that relationship with that person is kind of at its breaking point or at its end. And I was able to connect with those emotions really well. I took a moment before I recorded each part and really just channeled into what emotions I felt when I wrote the song, and just really wanted people to feel that or when they heard it. And so we spent a lot of time sort of just doing bits and pieces of the song over and over just to really capture that emotion.
Is it tiring or emotionally overwhelming when you're recording something like that, or when you were recording that song? Because as you said, you're going back into the emotions you felt when you wrote it. So I would imagine there is a process that goes on for that.
Yes, you're right. And I think it's something that people don't talk about too often, songwriters, especially when they're speaking so honestly and being so raw with their music. But I guess you're right. And it was a big thing as well about getting it sort of done, not in a rush, but like in big sessions, because you bring yourself back to that emotion, you're in it at that time. So it's kind of like, it's like when you start reading a book and then you put it down for a couple of weeks and you kind of forget what's going on, and you got to re-pick up those feelings and emotions. And so we were doing really big days. I went to Tamworth to record this, and so like there was one day we did something like 9-10 hours, just like just the whole day going over it. for that very reason, because it was like you don't want to sort of step out of that,
Mhm.
what you're feeling and what emotions you're putting into the song at that time. And so I guess it is like I was leaving pretty drained, ready for bed, but you know, it's all worth it in the end.
Yeah, and I wonder whether that process of doing so many hours on it is a way of breaking down any layers you had over the raw emotion, if that makes sense. Like getting you, maybe that was, Rusty had that method of just getting you to record until you kind of reach that point, because you can hear that in your voice. There is, as I said, it's a delicacy to it and strength to it, and there is not raw because that implies the vocals aren't polished, but there is a sense of emotion being right there on the surface.
Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly what I wanted as well. Like I said earlier, Rusty and I had lots of really good conversations about what I wanted from this track. And actually, it's a bit of a surprise, but there may or may not be an acoustic version of this track as well in the process. And so, you know, for that exact reason, like I just wanted it to be as vulnerable as possible, because that's how I wrote the song. And so that's how I want it to, I guess, be put out into the world as well, and people to feel what I was feeling. And, you know, that's what allows people to, I guess, open themselves and relate to something as well. I think when they can hear that you're being vulnerable, you know, it's kind of
Mm.
be that back.
Mm-hmm. And in being vulnerable to your audience, and as you said, you hadn't written a song like this before, there's a certain amount of courage required, I guess, to put that out, to say, okay, well, this is, I'm not hiding behind any story here. These are things I felt. Did it feel, once you had it all done or ready to go, did you feel like, okay, I kind of accept that that's now going to other people and I've ended that part of my story and I'm now sharing it with others?
Yeah, that is a big thing. I think during the writing process, obviously all of your emotions are very involved, but exactly like you just said, it does come with a bit of relief. Like once you kind of have the bravery to decide, one, yeah, I want to talk about this, two, I want to share this with other people. I guess you're 100% right. Step three is kind of going, okay, chapter closed. Like I've told my story now, I've felt my feelings. Now it's time for people to, you know, hear them or relate to them, or I guess feel the same way. And yeah, you kind of, you know, signed, sealed, delivered, and off it goes. And yeah, next chapter.
So has it changed the way you write songs? Because as you said before that, you'd written about, one emotion or one theme, but now that's a storytelling song. So are you writing songs in that vein?
I definitely, it's yes. I think the short answer is yes. Once I wrote this song, I kind of actually finished it and I was like, wow. Because initially, like in the beginning, it was supposed to be, like I said, this just really soft, sort of sweet song. Um, just about, yeah, what would happen if you were to lose somebody. And then a little bit of anger got involved and things like that. And so it's definitely made me explore the process of putting a whole story into a song rather than just a little chapter of it, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's definitely changed. Something that about writing songs is that there's always something new to learn, because there's not really a right or wrong. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like, initially when I first started writing songs, I was like, okay, how does this work? What's the you know, we've got a verse, chorus, bridge, whatever. But as I keep writing songs, and it's kind of like, obviously there's something that sticks. Like when you release music, you hope that it charts, or you hope that, you know, there's things you hope it's successful, but there's just so many different ways of going about it, and there really is no right or wrong. And I think that is the most beautiful part about songwriting for me, because every time I write something, I'm like, okay, I'm not a fan of this, and this isn't really the traditional way of going about it, but it's like, I can do it. Like it's, you know, I can if I want to. And I think that's really cool.
When you said I'm not a fan of this, do you mean you're not a fan of the process, or do you mean you're that critical of every song you write that you go, no, I don't like that?
I'm that critical of every song I
Oh.
write. Yeah. It takes a lot of I like to get a lot of feedback from lots of people, because I'm pretty sure every songwriter goes through this, but you know, you get to some points where it feels like either everything sounds the same, or you know, you just yeah, kind of going over the same things and you get a bit of writer's block. So I love going to, mum and dad are my best critics. I'll go to friends, I'll go to other songwriters, and I just, what do you think? Is this sound like the last thing I wrote, or does this sound like, and they're all brutally honest, which I love.
Even so, it sounds like your parents are not, they're not softening it because you're their daughter. They're not saying, oh, you're wonderful or whatever. They're just going,
No,
no.
not at all. They keep it real with me, but I like it that way.
Right. So do you tend to dedicate some time to songwriting, especially now that it seems like you might be on a bit of a roll or a trajectory after writing this song? Are you setting aside time regularly to write, or do you just write whenever you can? Because you do have a few things going on.
Yeah, I do. I do. And actually, it's funny that you bring that up because I've like on all the interviews I've done, like everyone knows that I just am so unorganized when it comes to writing because there was a time where I'd sit down and I go, I can't do that. Like I can't sit down and just think of something. It's always kind of like when I'm doing random things, when I'm driving, when I'm in the shower, something pops into your head and then you get your voice memos up on your phone and you kind of just go from there. But as of lately, I'm actually and this is the first time I'm saying this as well, but I'm actually working towards releasing an EP next year.
Right.
So there's heaps and heaps of writing going on at the moment. Just like I am allocating time here and there. Also because I'm doing a couple of co-writes. So there has been, blocks kind of set out for songwriting, but yeah, don't get me wrong, the ideas come at all sorts, middle of the night, whatever. And often those are the ones that stick. But yeah, recently I have been trying to sit down and really get some songs pumped out.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm excited to hear that there's an EP coming. That's good news.
Yes, no, I'm really excited. And Way Out West, I've decided is going to be the first track of that EP because it's something that I'm really proud of, and I think it really highlights and embodies sort of the style that I want to go towards as an artist. I know that's something that's always going to grow and change, but yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned showing your songs or sending your songs to your harshest critics or a panel of.
Yeah.
I suppose these days with social media, for some artists, it's testing it on social media as well. So do you tend to find you like to play a little bit of a song you're working on and get feedback, or is that just too much feedback from other people?
I think, I think that's definitely, social media is a huge platform, obviously. And, like I said earlier, I am my own worst critic. And so it definitely goes to my panel of people before I kind of gain the confidence to get it out onto social media. But then usually, that's the next step. And then after that, and I see, is this something that people like? Is it not really something that's going to stick? But then after that, usually comes starting to play it at shows and then getting feedback that way as well. And then, it's kind of that long list of process. And then it's okay, well, maybe do I want to record this or not? And so, that's kind of a process I've stuck to so far.
Now, I'm going to take you back to the start of the year. And even though Tamworth was a while ago, I did see some press about you performing at Tamworth. And so it obviously, it seemed to be a really successful festival for you. But how did you feel it went?
Yeah, it was an incredible festival. I just felt so lucky because it was my second Tamworth. So the first Tamworth Country Music Festival I ever went to was the one that they did in April, just after we came out of COVID. Like everyone sort of told me that was kind of half a festival in comparison to what they usually get in normal times. And so this year it was back in January. It was damn hot, which was very different to April where I was freezing. And it was just, back like from in comparison in full swing. There was people absolutely everywhere. I was lucky enough to be playing shows all over the place. I did a few at the Post Office Hotel, which were packed out wall to wall. So it was absolutely unbelievable. And I can't wait to do it all again in January.
And I also know just from talking to artists over the years that festival in particular can provide a lot of opportunities for meeting other people, whether it's potential co-writers, producers, musicians, whatever it is. Did you, given that was your second festival and probably the first proper full extent festival, did you feel that it was a really good place to meet other people?
Definitely. And even though I've only been to two of the festivals, I will say hands down out of anything else I've been to, Tamworth is the most supportive place amongst artists and anyone giving music a crack at the festival. It is, I think, the only festival that I've seen where you can be walking down the street and, you know, you see some of the biggest in the industry just strolling around, checking out buskers and things like that. It's just such a great place, like you said, for opportunity to meet people and create relationships, because everyone is just so supportive of you getting out there and giving it a crack and showing off your original music or doing covers or whatever it may be. And yeah, so I got the opportunity to meet some people that I'd only met online in person for the first time. There's two other Rodrigues girls in the country music industry, Piper Rodrigues and Kiara Rodrigues, and for the first time we got to meet up, the three of us, in this Tamworth Country Music Festival. So just things like that, you know, where it's just so great. It's like a hub of, you know, where we all come and we can finally just see each other face to face. So really good.
Well, if you ever want to form a band, the three of you, the name really does suggest itself.
Yeah, it wouldn't be too hard to find ourselves a band name. That's true.
Yeah. Now, some of the people you do know are artists like Andrew Swift, Vixens of Fall, and Will Day, and you've played support to each of those artists and all of those artists. Sometimes support slots can seem challenging because the audience doesn't necessarily know who you are. But do you tend to see them as a good challenge, like it's an opportunity to meet new people and play for new people?
100%. I think it is the biggest honor when another artist wants you to play for them or open up their show, because it just, you know, it's like you must respect that musician. Like there's respect for the musician both ways in order for that sort of exchange to happen. And so yeah, it is a challenge, definitely, because like you said, it's that artist's audience that you have to sort of play to and introduce yourself to. So it is a little bit daunting, and especially when you've got some of the best in the business, like the names you just said, Andrew Swift, Vixens of Fall, Will Day, are all incredible artists. And so it's kind of living up to that standard as you open for them. But it is definitely a challenge that I take with open arms, because it's just, like I said, such an honor for that artist to want to present you to their audience. So it is something that I really appreciate.
Now, some people are going to be discovering you for the first time in October because you are playing Groundwater on Gold Coast. That's pretty much your local festival, right?
Pretty much, yeah. That is the closest. It's the shortest drive, definitely. Yeah, I am so excited and over the moon to be playing that festival. It is the first time I'll be playing there. I've been the past couple of years to watch other artists, and yeah, so to be a part of the lineup this year and see my name, little old me, amongst some of the best is just baffling to me, but I'm so grateful.
Now it's billed as Tyla Rodrigues' band. So who is in the band with you?
So at the moment, I'm not gonna name names, but at the moment, I have got let me do some quick math. Yeah, 5-piece band. I think I just did the math quick enough. But fiddle player, bass player, lead guitarist, drummer, and myself. So I'm super excited. I think it's the biggest band I have been playing with. Yeah, I think it's going to be the biggest band I've ever played with. And yeah, we're about to start working on, sets for all that. Like I said earlier, I'm doing heaps of writing, so it's going to be lots and lots of originals in the sets and things like that. So I'm just so excited. I think it's going to be a brand new audience that I get to present myself to, and obviously surrounded by, like I said before, an incredible lineup of people. So I cannot wait. October can't come any sooner.
Does it require a different kind of energy ramp up to play at a festival? Like the atmosphere is so different to playing in a pub or a club or anything like that. So it's like there's some kind of, and I know there's probably not a special process you go through, but I imagine you got to kind of gear up to it.
100%. Like, honestly, I think just the hype of the festival in itself kind of just leads itself to that energy naturally. Like there's absolutely nothing like it. And I can again relate it back to Tamworth, where the whole vibe of the place, you're surrounded by just people that love country music and are just there to hear country music, and that in itself brings a whole lot of excitement. So yeah, and then another thing is just having a band on stage with you. that brings excitement in itself. And I've had the privilege of playing with some really, really incredible musicians who just love what they do. And when the people around you love what they do and you're loving what you're doing and the audience are loving what you're doing, yeah, it's the energy is unmatched.
Now, do you have any other festival appearances coming up for the rest of this year, or are you just looking ahead to Tamworth 2024?
Yeah, I am. I definitely am looking forward to Tamworth. I am going to be making an appearance at the Hats Off to Country Music Festival as well in Tamworth. So I'm going to be headed there a little earlier than January. And I'm doing some shows there, which I can't speak too much about just yet, but you know, they will all be announced on my social media soon enough.
Fantastic. Well, I am going to Hats Off to Country, so I will be looking out for you there. I was gonna say I hadn't seen you in the lineup, but that's because they haven't been announced yet. So that's good to know. But well, I'll look forward to seeing some of your new songs live. At the moment, we have the wonderful Way Out West for people to listen to, and your earlier singles as well. Tyla, it's been so great to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always great chatting to you.